got to be picked.
Kick out the jams, motherfuckers!
End of the line! Welcome to Tied Down TV, punk rock opinion show with me, Geoff.
And Danny.
And where we pick our top fives in areas of punk and hardcore. Today we're going to do proto-punk. Now, it's a loose term really, as most of you probably know. Stuff that's called proto-punk happened before punk, so...
It's a retrospective term.
Exactly, it was applied after the fact, wasn't it?
Yeah.
A lot of things now get looked at as being proto-punk as well. I want to talk a little bit about that before we get into our list. I think that's important because actually quite a few sounds and you know, genres really kind of fed into it, so we'll kick things off with that.
Well, I think when you look at the 60s particularly, I think it was the most exciting time for music probably there's ever been. Because I think if you look at when rock and roll happened, say before World War II, the teenagers even exist?
It wasn't even a word.
It wasn't even a thing. It wasn't a thing.
You basically went from a child to adult, didn't you?
Yeah. I think if you look at like pictures, you know, before World War II, kids generally dressed as their parents. They didn't seem to have an identity of their own.
Yeah.
Then rock and roll happened, obviously influenced by the blues artists and stuff.
Yeah.
And suddenly they had it was the birth of youth culture.
Yeah,
you know, there was a rebellion. They had their own dress. They had their own clothes. They had their own language.
They had their own music then as well. With rock and roll.
And I think then when in the 60s, I mean, you just have to look at chart lists in the 60s. You had folk in there. You had psychedelia. You had West Indian artists like Desmond Decker. The Tamla Motown sound was massive as well. It's like subcultures were suddenly popping up everywhere, and people now had a choice.
Being embraced by other people as well.
Yeah, and I just think if you look at it as a time, there just seemed to be suddenly there was a choice. You know, someone you could pick a number of ways to go.
Definitely different parts of it, and obviously in the sound wise, like you had like the surf guitar sound, kind of bleeding into what then became known as garage rock, psych rock, if you like. And obviously shout out to the Nuggets compilation as well, because that's a spot on little starter if you want to get into some stuff from that period.
It's the go-to if you just want to hear something quick. If you're not familiar with that
sort of late 60s.
Or watch some Vietnam War films.
But also then as well, like over in the UK, you had stuff happening in the early 70s with the glam movement and the, T-Rex, Roxy music, when Bowie, especially when he hit Ziggy and things like that. You also had then the pub rock sound, Dr. Feelgood, Kilburn and the High Roads. Stuff coming out of Germany, some of the krautrock,
Los Psychos, Peru,
absolutely. Like say some of the krautrock from Germany, Can, all kind of feeds into a lot of that. So there we touched on 6 or 7 different sort of sounds and cultures that all now, when people look back at it, go called proto-punk, or at least loosely gets called proto-punk. So, but without further ado, anyway, we're going to
Let's stop boring people.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to start our top 5s. So I'm going to pick a CD for the first one. I'm going to be one of them people. So unfortunately, I don't have this on vinyl, but I'm going to go Shadows of Night, Gloria. I'll be honest with you, this is pretty much a covers album. It's it's just full of blues covers. John Lee Hooker, lots of Muddy Waters. They're all done really well. Obviously, the most obvious cover is the title track, Gloria, which was originally by the band Them, written by Van Morrison. I'm not sure, but I think it was actually a far bigger hit for these guys, to be fair.
I don't actually know.
Than it was for them. Yeah. So I think this is the more famous, this is the more familiar one you hear on, you know what I mean?
Maybe.
Yeah, and it's obviously an absolute standard for this time.
And it ties into proto-punk in the way that like Patti Smith does
a
version of it, although the verse is different. The chorus is the G-L-O-R-I chant. So again, proto-punk there, like it's a big tune for that, really.
It's very recognisable. It's just like I say, there's a lot of covers on here, but this is a brilliant album. So Shadows of Night, Gloria.
Good pick. So my first choice, I've gone with Monks, Black Monk Time. Now, this is an interesting album, I think. I think it's
you got interesting haircuts.
We've definitely got interesting haircuts. So the story goes anyway, 5 American GIs. It was in Germany. They were very frustrated, angry at the government, the Vietnam War. They dressed like monks. They shaved their heads. They wore robes on stage. This is their only studio album as well. it's got some great tunes on it. It starts with Monk Time. It's got a lot of like organ keyboards. There's a lot of psych rock in there, but also
organs and keyboards were massive back then.
Yeah, very huge. They kind of wanted to be, I believe, anyway, the anti-Beatles. What I've heard, but it gets a little bit abrasive in places. I believe live they were properly fucking in your face. But there's some great tunes. Boys Are Boys, Girls Are Choice is amazing. Complications amazing. Shut Up's great. It's cool, man. It's very good. Also quite influential on post-punk as well. It's good. If you've not heard it, definitely go and check it out. It grew on me. I know you're not a big fan of it. Like
I've only heard it a couple of times, man. I'll have to give it another couple of goes.
But I heard it the first time maybe 7 years ago, 8 years ago, and it grew on me a lot since then. And to the point where now I love it. I think it's great. I think you should check it out if you've not heard it though. Anyway, Black Monk Time.
My next choice is Psychotic Reaction by the Count 5. Name the Count 5 because they dress in Dracula capes when they play live.
That's amazing.
They only released this album. Now, I believe they were very young when they made this, obviously, and a lot of them went to university, college. Yeah. But I believe I'm right in reading, I think at least one member, I think, got drafted into the Vietnam War.
Which wouldn't be uncommon for the era anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, it's pretty much all originals. But if I did have one little knock for this album, they do a cover of My Generation by The Who, and it isn't great. The album is amazing, but I just think when you hear the power of My Generation by The Who, it's just so, you know what I mean? It's just like a kick in the nuts, isn't it?
Yeah.
But their version is very watered down. I'm not a big fan of it. The crown jewel though for this is the title track, Psychotic Reaction, which is an absolute standard garage track. It's absolutely amazing. Everyone should check that one song out if they're going to check anything out by these guys.
I'd say I actually, obviously we talk about what we're going to pick, what we're going to choose and talk about, and he mentioned this one to me and I was like, well, I'm not familiar with that, so I had a little listen, checked it out. So I only heard this for the first time this week and it is fucking great. I had heard the title track actually, but I hadn't realised what it was.
Yeah, it's on Nuggets, the first Nuggets compilation.
But it's class, man. It's really good. Well worth checking out, to be fair, like if you've not heard it.
Yeah. So that's my second pick. Psychotic Reaction, Count 5.
So my next pick, it's an obvious one really, but it's got to be picked. Got to be picked.
Kick out the jams, motherfuckers!
MC5, Kick Out the Jams. It's fucking amazing, man. So good. Like, I don't really do live albums, I'll be honest. There's a couple, Motorhead.
That wouldn't be as good if it wasn't live.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What makes it better? It gets a pass because it's a live album. It gets a pass because it's so fucking good. Yeah. It's so raw. It's visceral. Yeah. It's like primal, like just coming out in it. It's so good.
Everything about that album.
As soon as you put it on and the guy starts talking and he's asking the crowd, "Are you ready
for a revolution?" Yeah.
And they come out and they open with Rambling. Oh, it's great, man. There's mistakes in it because it's live, obviously, but it's cool. It's heavy, obviously influenced by rhythm and blues and rock and roll. But also Wayne Kramer, the guitarist, often talked about listening to stuff like free jazz, things like that. And the last tune on here, Starship, is an interpretation of a Sun Ra song, so that kind of backs that claim up. But, it's rock and roll. It's fucking loud. It's in your face. It's brilliant. If you've not heard that, definitely go and listen to it. Blow your fucking socks off, man. It's great.
Yeah, I agree with all that.
Yeah, what can you say?
My next pick is probably the most obvious pick of maybe the era for this, and that is the first Kinks album. It's pretty much perfect, honestly.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, I absolutely love this album. Obviously, Ray Davies is a brilliant songwriter. Yeah. There's some brilliant love songs with a lot of harmony in, Just Can't Go to Sleep, Stop Your Sobbing, and obviously everyone, as soon as they hear that riff, you know what's coming. Yeah. One of the most recognisable and simple riffs ever.
It's a fucking great song. Still, even now when you hear it, it's great, isn't it?
I do have the CD of this, and it comes with All Day and All the Night on, and a cover of Louie Louie, which I think most garage bands covered at the time, which is obviously originally by the Kingsmen, which was just we should mention that just because of how influential it was.
It's influential, and like I say, Black Flag finished their set with that. Still now, what's left of Black Flag anyway, finished their set with Louie Louie.
So something like that, and say Surfing Bird by the Trashmen, they were like, songs like that just need to be mentioned.
Absolutely, you know what I mean? Absolutely. Stages of the period. Like this, I think this is great. I love the Kinks. Even I'm more into the more sort of whimsical late 60s, more stuff of like Village Green Preservation Society, but this is fucking great rock and roll. And obviously the story really got me about Dave got the sound for the solo where he sliced the cone on his amp and gave it that like distorted, it sounds fucking raw, it sounds cool. Also, so he was sitting next to Jimi Hendrix on a plane when he was about 19, talking a bit, and Jimi Hendrix tells him that his favourite guitar solo is the solo from You Really Got Me.
What a compliment that
So
is.
if you're a 19-year-old guitarist, man...
Another story, actually, I know about this song is when they were recording You Really Got Me, you know the bit in the middle where they're like, like that? When they were recording it, the Davis brothers, they said they were looking at each other in that bit, just all the memories of just fighting as siblings came out, and he screamed that and stuff.
The original Gallagher brothers, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They lasted till 1996, as well. Like, Like, that was when they split up.
Yeah. But yeah, unbelievable album, Kinks' first
it's a great
album.
record. It's well worth listening to.
Yeah.
So my next pick is self-titled Modern Lovers record. Now, this is one of them, like I said a bit about the Monks, like when I heard this before I heard the Monks, but it's grown on me. It might not have gone in my pick if we'd have done this a couple of years back.
Yeah.
But doing it now, this gets in it. I love it, man. It was recorded in like 71, 72, I think. Didn't actually get released till 75, maybe even early 76. But they were knocking about already. I think they'd already maybe even nearly split up by that point. Because it's kind of like a demo, but it's fucking cool, man. Everyone knows Roadrunner. Roadrunner is a big tune. Pistols covered that, didn't he? They're like a friendly Velvet Underground, I think. The sound of them, it's quite slow and, those droney 2 or 3 chords, but lyrically, completely different to the Velvet Underground. Velvet Underground singing about, heroin, prostitutes, like seedy, dark side of life.
Yeah.
These are singing a little bit more upbeat, a bit more niceness to it almost. But it's really good and it is very influential. And yeah, I'd highly recommend this. Fucking great. Go listen to it. Self-titled Modern Lovers album. I ain't got a lot else to say about it, to be fair. It's just really good. And yeah, it still gets a lot of rotation. Like I even leading up to this, obviously I listened to a lot of these a few times, but I listened to this, even before we decided this was the video we were going to do this week. I was still listening to this quite a lot. It's a brilliant record.
So he said how loud the MC5 album was. Well, I've got something here to match it.
Yeah.
To me, this is the loudest album ever, right? And I'm going to go, here are the Sonics by the Sonics. Now, story time. So, probably about 7-8 years ago, went out to a gig with my mate Brian. We were in the car.
Yeah.
And we're driving along and there's a tune playing and he says to me, guess what year this is from, man? And I said, and I listened to it and I thought, I know I haven't heard it, but if I had to guess, it sounds like maybe a Dead Kennedy's demo song or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
That's
so I said, 81, 82. And he went, it's from 1964, man. And I couldn't believe it, honestly. And that tune playing was The Witch by the Sonics, which is the first song on this.
Great song now.
And I listened to this song and the speed of it. It was so fast and so loud. The singer's almost got, in this band's almost got a Little Richard kind of wahoo kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
And it's honestly, if you ever want an album to blow your speakers out and destroy your eardrums,
it's full of great tunes.
Yeah,
full of great tunes.
Yeah, they do a brilliant version of "Do You Love Me" by the Isley Brothers as well. Sounds quite similar to the original because even the original was loud as anything as well.
Very much. Like,
there's a few covers on there. There is actually a Little Richard tune on there. Good Golly Miss Molly.
Do Chuck Berry Roll Over Beethoven. Man.
Yeah.
It's fucking great. Have Love Will Travel's probably my favorite.
Yeah, Psycho is another big one on there.
A big song. Yeah, great stuff.
Yeah. So, and also when we're going on about how cool these bands look, I mean, look to me. You look how these. I've got the anthology CD Psychotic, and there's a few pictures of them stood there in like parkers and stuff and all that.
Mods.
And they just looked so cool. You look at these bands, that's the kind of band I want to be in, man. That's what I want to look like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they all had good haircuts.
Yeah, well, apart from the Monks. Yeah.
Well, the Monks, it's good for what it was doing. Yeah. But I know what you mean.
Yeah, but yeah.
That's it's fucking brilliant, that to be fair. Yeah, I would have picked that 100%. Yeah. It would get in mine. It didn't get in my top 5 because
you knew I wanted it.
I knew he wanted it bad.
Yeah.
So anyway, my 4th pick, it's going to be, speaking of my last pick, Velvet Underground and Nico. It's an obvious choice, I know. And I was close with actually nearly picked White Light, White Heat, the second album, because I feel like it's a bit more raw, a bit more visceral, but it does obviously go. The last tune on that, Sister Ray, is a long song. But I picked this because this is the fucking classic. You've all seen that cover, obviously, designed by Andy Warhol, and it peels off and everything. But this, for me, track list in this is flawless. Opening with a great little, this. It's kind of, I don't know, Sunday morning. It's just this twinkling, beautiful song, and then it kicks into Waiting for My Man, a song about scoring drugs off your drug dealer. It's fucking class, though, man. I mean, it's experimental. It is arty. It's punk as fuck for me, though.
Yeah.
You look at them as well, the shades, the leather. It's dark, it's cool, it's catchy in places, it's noisy in places, experimental, but it's a stone cold classic. If you've not heard it, go and check it out, because there's a famous quote, I think it's Brian Eno, and I'm paraphrasing, I might get this slightly wrong, but he basically said nobody, bar about 1,000 people, bought this album, but every single one of them formed a band.
Yeah,
that's how influenced that is. And that was my fourth pick.
Yeah. So we both picked one. There was, as soon as we decided we were making this video, straight away we both said, well, I want that, and you went, I want that as well. So this album made both our lists. It
did make up both our lists, and
we weren't going to fight over it. We were just going to say no, we're both having it.
We've got to have it. It's got to be picked.
And that is the kings of this stuff, the Stooges, Funhouse.
Fucking just
one of the best albums of music. Full stop.
Yeah,
not just rock music.
So influential, man.
Yeah.
It's just cool as fuck, isn't it? But like we said, we both had to pick it.
Yeah.
But not. I did toy with maybe picking Raw Power or the self-titled.
The other albums are good, really good.
Great,
I love the Stooges, but I just think this is just
it's a cut above.
I probably listen to this 3 or 4 times a week, and I have done for a long time. Do you know what I mean? It's just one of them albums I play all the time. It's hard to pick a favourite song, but if I had to, I'd probably say Loose.
Loose, yeah, that'd be up there for me. TVI, I like as well. But every tune's great. Even the title track, LA Blues, at the end is great. It's 1970. Every song on it. There's only 7 songs on it, to be fair. Yeah. It's fucking great. And again, you want to say about looking cool, man. Look at that. Look how cool they look there. Iggy Pop, arguably the greatest frontman in rock and roll for me. There's not many that have matched him.
No.
He's still knocking about now, still giving it large.
Yeah.
But everyone's read about him. They know the stories. They know what he used to do. But he contorted himself like I think I've heard you describe him as like
James Brown.
Like a white James Brown. A little bit of like a twisted Mick Jagger. I always kind of viewed him as like
if you got James Brown and Mick Jagger slam them together.
And then put loads of drugs in them. Yeah, you get Iggy Pop.
Well, drugs not already in them too.
They probably will. Let's put more in and you get Iggy Pop. You know what I mean? But. Talking about proto-punk, this is proto-punk. This is what it's all about, really.
It's the pinnacle.
It's the pinnacle.
Yeah,
it's fucking raw. Yeah. It's loud. It's angry. It's got melody. How catchy those Loose and songs like that. There's proper melody in there as well. But if you've not heard this, fucking go with it.
So good. Yeah.
Blow your fucking socks off. And that's our picks.
Yeah, that's our top 5. For an honourable mention, I'm going to go New York Dolls, self-titled.
And I'm going to go The Dictators, Go Girl Crazy.
And tune in next time when we are going to be talking about
UK 82 and Anarcho Punk.
See you then.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.